Hello, and thanks for coming along to And We Have an Office Dog, the digital agency podcast where we talk to agency owner-directors and learn more about what makes them tick. From the things that make them similar to the things they'd rather have known sooner, where they've had success and where they've learned some hard lessons. All will be revealed with your host, Chris Simmons, the agency coach, and he'll be talking to a different awesome agency person in each episode, asking them 4 questions and seeing where the conversation takes us over the next 25 minutes. Okay, so let us begin. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, voiceover guy. And on the podcast today, we've got Alan from My Growth Gorilla. How are you doing?
Hey Chris, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. And looking forward to the conversation.
Lovely to have you on, mate. So first and foremost, like every single podcast that we do, this is your perfect opportunity to give anyone who maybe wants a job from you in the future, or anyone who might be listening who could be a potential client, the pitch. What is the agency? How do you do it? And how awesome are you at it?
Cool. So the quick plug. Growth Gorilla, we do content promotion and link building for B2B SaaS companies. Essentially, we act as like a fractional content promotion team for all those SaaS software companies that are publishing a lot of quality content, but don't have the time or resources to actually promote that content and build the backlinks to it to make it rank for the main target keywords.
Brilliant. So actually, it's within the digital marketing sector, it's quite niche down in terms of all of the things that people do in digital marketing. I think that's probably lends itself to doing quite well, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So we've always been trying to niche down both into a specific niche, so target clients, but also as a specific service that we do. So we only do one thing, and we only do it for one type of client.
Which is the perfect way of getting excellent at it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So we do have a whole playbook and a whole set of processes that we mainly do for these types of clients.
That's wonderful. So how long's the agency been going for?
Yeah, so the agency started in 2018. In the beginning, we weren't super focused as we are now, and a lot of things have changed. But yes, it's been going since 2018. In the beginning, it was just me and one freelance guy. Now it's me and a team of 10 people, and we have about 10 to 15 clients at any given month. We always try to keep it small to keep the quality high. But yeah, that's it.
That's really good. That's some good growth over a relatively short period of time. So the first question I've got for you then, I guess, is what's been one of the biggest successes that you've seen in the time you've been running the agency?
So I would say, to keep the flow going from the previous question, I would think the niching down and the fact that we really found a positioning that's been working. It's been a very nice thing for us, especially during the past 2 years with the pandemic and everything that's going on. SaaS, so software, has been really growing quite a lot because more and more people have started working from home. And so we've seen like a crazy growth. Like the past 2 years have been the best 2 years ever for us, paradoxically, which is cool for us. Unfortunately, not very cool for some other kind of industries. But yeah, we've seen a lot of growth from the positioning. The second thing I would say, we worked a lot on our sales process. We now do have a very defined sales process that kind of allows me to only work with the best clients that we can serve the better as well. So I would say these are the main things for us.
I think that to the last point there about the sales process, I think there's something that lots of agencies forget about, in that a lead will come in and you'll just try and sell to them because you want to take the money and you want to have the client, and there's vanity metrics like 50 clients and things, but in reality it's better to say no if they aren't a fit. And if you think, I can help you for the next 2 months, but in month 3, 4, 5, 6 it's going to be hard because you're not a fit for us, so we'll then end up not liking each other, and you won't tell people how good we are. And one of the hardest things, as you know, because the money comes in, the money goes out, and you see it, the last thing you want to do is say no to the wrong person, but you do need to make sure you say no to the right person, as it were.
Yeah,
it's a bit tough.
Yeah, definitely. For us, it's still always like a little bit of a struggle. Obviously, it's not like we're perfect. So sometimes I would get the occasional client that looks really good on paper, but
Yeah.
there's kind of like that little voice in my head that's like, no, these guys won't probably work. But I end up saying yes anyways because on paper it looks good. Then
Yeah.
after 2 3 months, I'm finding myself hating these clients, and so yeah, it still happen.
And potentially likewise as well.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, definitely. Yeah. So it still happens, but yeah, we've gotten a lot better at
Mm.
finding the good ones, I think.
And having had a look over your website, which, as I said to you before the recording, I love the branding, and it's all the
Thank you.
80s stuff and all the movie references and the gifs. Like literally, it's my dream website. It does look like there's a really sort of process driven background to quite a lot of doing this, but with the creative element that you need to keep in there. Have you found that that's been a difficult balance to strike? Because you need a process to be followed, but it sounds like there's a lot of creative thinking involved in there as well.
Yeah. So so yeah, I think I've always been kind of good at systematizing and making a process out of the pieces that can be systematized,
Mhm.
but keeping the creative steps out of it essentially. So for now, what we do for our client campaigns essentially is I do the first step, which is the more like creative part. And so I've also found a way to start training some of the other team members in the same
Mhm.
process because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, it is a set of steps that you need to do. It's a little bit creative, but it's
Mm.
still a set of steps. So yeah, the main thing is finding those parts that can be delegated
Yeah.
to literally anyone. Creating the SOPs, shooting videos as well. That's
Mhm.
also been very helpful for us. But yeah, it's still very flexible. So we typically divide the process into three main areas. So the first one is the strategy. Second one is prospecting, so finding all of the sites to send the emails to, and the last one is the outreach. And each one has its own team that does the specific thing.
Mhm.
Each one has its own set of processes and procedures. Some of them are more creative, some of them are a little less. But yeah, I think this segmentation is what helped us
Mm.
to separate the things that can be delegated and the things that maybe require some little more like expertise.
Yeah, and that's a really important balance to catch. And sometimes you'll go one way too far and realize
Mhm.
someone's had too much control, and
Yeah.
one way too far the other way, and realize that you've not given someone enough creativity or enough control, and it's stifled the opportunity to do some really good work. And
Mhm.
obviously, ultimately, if you have members in your team, you want them to feel like there's growth opportunity. Then they need to feel like they're part of something a bit bigger than just their role. So they don't want to be given a checklist and told, "See you in 8 hours, bye bye."
Yeah. So yeah, for us, especially with the kind of work that we do, which is essentially link building for content promotion, it's very easy to put it as something that is kind of like something that any kind of freelancer can do. There's a lot of like low quality link vendors, which is all spam essentially. So so I'm really trying hard to
Mm,
make it like look and work like something that is really high quality
yeah,
and that is really strategy driven instead of just taking orders from the client. And like a client
absolutely.
comes in as like, yeah, I want 10 links of these metrics, right? So we don't do that. We essentially are the ones that tell the client what kind of links they need and so
Hmm.
on. So there's this strategy that we try to keep there to make it look and feel more high quality as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's say, for argument's sake, it was possible technically to go back in time, and
Mhm.
you were in your time machine and you went back in time, and you could give yourself one piece of advice when you started the agency. What would it be?
So yeah, the main piece of advice I would say, don't take things personally,
Yeah.
especially with a lot of like bad clients. In the beginning, I would really take this personally as it was my fault.
Mm,
Uh, yeah, because maybe the results weren't happening and so on. But yeah, this is something that I learned by finding better client that it's actually,
yeah.
yeah, actually wasn't my fault. It was the client that wasn't right for what we do.
Mm,
So I would say this is the first thing. Don't take it personally. Try to always be chill with most of the clients as well. And yeah, the other thing I would say is that it's never gonna be easy or even stress free.
Mm,
Like there's always going to be that level of stress, but it's something that is cyclical, right? So I think it really was in cycles. So you work your ass off 1 month to fix or maybe delegate some of the things that are holding you back, and then you get 2 3 months where it's easier, right?
yeah,
And then you work your ass off for another month, and then you get the 2 3 months where
yeah.
it's easier, and so on. It's like cycles like that.
So if you did go back in time and give yourself that advice, do you think you would have listened to it?
I don't know. It depends. Uh, I don't know. Yeah, I typically tend to listen to people that are more experienced than me. But if it's myself saying the same thing, I don't know. Probably not.
It's really hard, isn't it? When one of the things with being an agency leader is that you kind of need to know when it's okay to be, in inverted commas, wrong, and
Mhm.
kind of get out of your own way. Otherwise, you cause your own problems that you're
Yeah.
struggling with later. And it's kind of like you say, there's a cycle there where you get to a point where it's a lot harder than it really feels like it should be, and then something clicks, you make a
Yeah.
change, you make a modification, and then it becomes easier again. And the same thing goes with cash flow as well. Roughly, if you
Hmm.
put the two
Yeah.
graphs over the top of each other, maybe they look relatively similar. Um,
Yeah.
so, in the last few years of running the agency, is there something that you've done that you kind of either regret doing, or something which you have done recently that you kind of think, I wish we'd done that sooner, or that something that's kind of set you in the right
Hmm.
direction for success?
Yeah. Something that I regret doing. Yeah, with one client in particular. This was our longest term client. We've been working with them for like 2 or 3 years, and so they were a good client, but in a way they tend to yeah, be that kind of client that's always chasing the shiny new thing. So they were always coming to me like, hey, I saw these guys are doing this, can we
Mm,
try to do that?
mm,
So with that client in particular, just because I was used to working with them, I really liked working with them, I tended to agree to the requests too much. So
yeah.
we would try new processes, new things that we've never done, but all of that in the end wasn't very good. It didn't work well because it was basically going out of our typical process. So it
Mm,
was a toll on the team as well to always having to learn and try new stuff.
yeah.
So that's something that I would probably not do now. I would try to stay in our lane and let the client know that if they want to try something else, then this might not be the right fit, essentially.
So
In
so so learning that is
Yeah.
key, right?
Yeah. In terms of things I wish we would have done sooner. Yeah, well, probably the fact of delegating some of the
Mm,
work that I was doing myself before. So now I started delegating some of the strategy as well, as I was
mm.
saying before, and it's really been a game changer because I can do stuff like this. I can do podcasts. I can do more
Yeah,
things to grow the agency while the
absolutely.
guys are.
So delegation is quite a hard thing to learn as an agency owner, because obviously you hold on to everything all the time, and obviously giving a little bit of that away, or a bit of control, or the risk to that, is quite hard. Did you find that?
Yeah, yeah. Delegation is definitely something that is kind of a skill that needs learning as well. The proper way
Mm,
for how to delegate to make your team member feel like they are really helping you instead of just you like dropping a bunch of extra work essentially on
yes,
them, right?
yes.
So yeah, it's really important. It's really something that I'm still struggling to get better at.
Mm,
But I wish I would have delegated some of the more strategic aspect for the client work sooner, because that would have
yeah.
freed me up.
I think with delegation, it's hard, isn't it? Because you want to make sure that people are doing things they should be doing, but you also, like you say, you don't want to feel like them to feel like you've just dropped more work on them. And a big part of learning that lesson is realizing that people want to grow, and part of growing is doing a bit more. It's not necessarily more physical amounts of work, is it? Sometimes it's actually that you want them to do more things at the expense of something else, which someone else will take from them. But
Hmm.
framing how and why you're delegating something to someone is really, really tough. I
Yeah.
spend a lot of time with the agencies that I coach, talking through, kind of, is that something that should be delegated, or is that something that can be delegated later with training that is done previously?
Yeah.
So if there's an agency owner or agency leader, aspiring agency owner or leader listening right now, and they've just started out for themselves, they're just about to start for themselves, or they're thinking about it, what's the one piece of advice you think you could give them that they could take away and use to build their agency?
So if there's only one thing, I would say be extremely selective with the clients, as we've discussed
Yep.
so far, because the more the clients are fit for exactly what you do, the better everything else is going to be. So it's going to be easier. It's going to be more like a pleasure working with people. You know that you're helping them actually
Yeah.
solve their problems, and they're going to be happy to pay you, essentially, which is the most important
Yeah.
thing.
Well, yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because when you start an agency, you start it because you're good at a thing, and then you have staff and tools you need to pay for and things like that, and you start realizing it's actually a business. And as soon as you start doing that, you stop being selective over clients, but you also potentially start thinking about everything as a money-based thing, and you forget that realistically, if you, like you say, if you do work and you enjoy working with those people, they will be happier, as happy as you can be with giving people money, and they'd be happier to give you the money because not only have they had a good service and good results, but they've actually feel good spending time with you.
Yeah, definitely. I think uh, having the pulse on the situation, so knowing the happiness level
Yeah.
of your clients is also important. So keeping track of how they're doing, and yeah, knowing exactly if there's anything else that you can do, and positioning that as an upgrade as well.
Mm,
So
mm.
some clients, sometimes I get clients that come to me and they want more, but at the same price, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes yeah, essentially like I was doing with that client that I told you about earlier, I would say, yes, we can do it, no problem, blah, 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 because the money seemed good. But at the end of the day, if you start actually tracking where the money goes, you can see that the client is not positive ROI anymore.
Mm.
So it's really important to position everything else that you do as an upgrade. So the client can get more, but they also have to pay more, right? So they
Yeah.
get more for more,
Yeah,
basically.
and I mean, I think that's a business problem as old as time. Everyone wants more for the same price or less,
Yeah.
and I guess that's a really good piece of advice in a sense. Be selective over who you pick, but also set the expectations really early.
Yeah.
This is what you have, and if you want more, you pay more. So that's I mean that's really good advice. Final question for you. What do you think's been one of the best or biggest growth tools, things that you've used to build the agency to date?
So yeah, since it looks like it worked on you as well, I would say my brand. So for us, it's really been yeah, probably like 80% of our success has been the brand, because we really tried to be different from anything else that's out there. If you
Hmm.
look at most of the SEO link building agency, they all look the same. They kind of like that generic like
Yep.
clean look of the website. I really wanted to go in the opposite direction. So dark website, neon sign, and all of the gifts and all of the
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
stuff. And yeah, I would say, yeah, 80% of the new leads that come to me when we do the first call, the first thing that they say is like, I love your brand, I love your
Mm.
design, and it really stands out.
So this is brilliantly interesting. There's a problem with digital marketing agencies, isn't there? That they think they need to rank number one in
Hmm.
Google, so
Hmm.
they make a website which is conventionally what's going to rank number one. But
Yeah.
you're never going to rank number one unless you rank number one for digital marketing agency in regional town for plumbers or something like
Exactly.
that. So
Yeah.
and that's where a lot of things end up going wrong for them in the sense of marketing. They need to market to their audience, and presumably you use your website as part of the marketing suite, but it's more of a sales channel than a marketing channel.
Yeah, that's a
And
very good point. I would also say it's also a way of weeding out clients that might not be a fit,
mm,
right? Because I typically wouldn't want to be talking with some old like corporate guy that doesn't know what Back to
yeah.
the Future is, for example. So
Yeah.
this really works as a way of yeah, connecting with
Yeah.
people that are kind of like synced with
and
me.
I, and I think if you have a brand which is strongly you, the agency, then again it's a bit of an expectation setting point. So if you do have someone who's older and more corporate on the call, but they understand all the references, they love the purpose and the mission that you're on, then they are still a fit. But
Yeah.
if you have someone who lands on the website and they go, oh, this doesn't look like these guys know what they're talking about, I can't be asked with it. It doesn't say award winning, and it doesn't say we have an office dog. It doesn't say those things, so therefore I have to leave. They can't have my money. So it's a really good sales qualification thing. If someone fills in the form or sends you an email from your website,
Yeah.
that they've passed the first test.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. And I think agency owners listening, I think that's a really important thing to think about. If you look like everyone else, you're selling like everyone else, and everyone's buying from you thinking you're everyone else. So you can't have a unique value proposition, and it makes it harder to sell and keep your clients if you are the same as everyone else.
Yeah. Very good point.
What a great tip to end the podcast on. So thank you very much for your time, Alan. It's been lovely having you on.
Thank you, Chris. It's been great.
Look forward to hearing the feedback when people look at your website after this.
Yeah, definitely.
And on our next agency podcast, we'll have a different agency leader talking about their journey and the things they've learned along the way. So stay tuned and enjoy listening.